มสาระความรู้ก่อนใครได้ที่ RSU WisdomTV ทางระบบทีวีดาวเทียมหรือผ่านแอปพลิเคชัน RSU WisdomTV ดาวน์โหลดแอปพลิเคชันได้ที่ Google Play และ App Store
Hello and welcome to ASEAN Challenge, the show to give you the latest headlines, hot topics and updates happening around your ASEAN bloc in 2 languages. I'm Rosalind Tepawan.
And I'm Alyssa สิทธิวงศ์ขอต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านเข้าสู่รายการ ASEAN Challenge ค่ะข่าวสารเกี่ยวกับอาเซียนทั้งภาษาอังกฤษและภาษาไทยค่ะ
And starting off our ASEAN Challenge program with ASEAN around us, let's take a look at the newest trend in nature walking, you could say.
That's right. This is located in Vietnam and it's a cave happened by nature. This cave is called it's first of all the largest cave, that people are very excited to go to. It's called Son Doong Cave.
Son Doong.
And it's considered as the world's largest cave.
Right, and it was discovered way back in 2009, not that far back actually, by some British, you could say, explorers, British cavers, who accidentally walked into the cave and discovered its greatness. And since then, it opened up in 2013 officially to tourists.
That's right.
But despite the large size of the cave, it can only take in a limited amount of tourists.
That's right. It says that depending on the weather conditions, the cave can accommodate up to maybe 500 to 600 people per time, and in which, of course, at the moment now, they were also saying that for 2017, on-sale tickets have started been purchasing or been on sale as well.
And the tickets are no regular tickets, you would think, to enter a cave. Each ticket costs $3,000. That's equivalent to a little more than 100,000 Thai baht.
That's quite expensive for a cave, I would say. So, assumingly this cave is the world's largest cave. It has beautiful rocks and sceneries inside of it. So this year, 442 people have visited it so far, including, of course, groups of diplomats from several countries, including Argentina, Sweden, Italy, Czech Republic.
Right, but it's not every year the same number of visitors can actually go to the cave. Depending on the weather conditions, they may have to limit or cap the number of tourists. But so far, the exclusive tour company called the Oxalis or Chua Me Dat Adventure Tours, they're an exclusive tour organizer here. They're actually saying that only 10 people can enter the cave at a time, just to keep in watch with safety. But altogether, they said that already tickets are being reserved for next year.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Exactly. Now, for those of you who are wondering what you will get to see or what's going to happen when you purchase these $3,000 tickets, well, tourists will be expected or required to be fit, of course, because the tour involves a trek of 50 kilometers. That's approximately 31 miles in a jungle and mountain.
Oh my gosh.
Elevation of up to 400 meters between the roads and valleys. You'll have to cross through 40 rivers, 10 to 50 meters wide rivers and about knee deep. The 10-kilometer cave includes rope climbing, rocky terrain, and 80 meters of descent with the rope and harness, crossing underground rivers with strong currents, and 5 days inside. So it's actually quite a bit of an adventure. It's not just going into your average cave, looking around, taking pictures, but it's an actual adventure altogether.
Right. You could say this is not for the light of heart. This is for those who are, you could say, extreme adventurers to a certain extent, because really you're not just exploring nature, but you're also really testing the capabilities, your physical capabilities and physical limits.
That's right.
Wow.
And as mentioned, of course, they say that per year about 500 to 600 people can visit the cave, and for 2017 alone, that's what they predicted is the amount. So thousands of people are actually rushing to buy these tickets, even though, of course, with the price limitation, of course, it's something that a lot of people are willing to take part in, and of course, it's probably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for several people.
You may wonder, though, if various tourists go in alone, do they all explore in different areas? Do they all split up? Actually, they go with a very small group because it really covers a lot of territory. So they do want to make sure nobody gets lost in this huge Pong Nga Ke Bang National Park in Quang Binh. Apparently, 25 people are guiding the small group of people at a time into the cave. 25 people include porters, a cook, even a tour guide, 2 cave experts, and 2 park rangers. You never know what you're going to find in this national park.
Of course, so therefore everything you need is basically provided right there with the cooks, with the safety equipment and safety personnel as well. So definitely also well planned ahead. Of course, as you mentioned, there's also an organizer in charge of the tours and the exhibitions as well.
Well, some cases though may be a bit exceptional. Back in 2004, apparently a special tour was held for the Saudi Arabia Crown Prince, who also discovered the Son Doong Cave around February 11th of 2014. There was a party for the Crown Prince of the Abu Dhabi Emirate, and apparently he was able to successfully conquer the world's largest cave here, and he was the first person to enter the cave in 2014 to set a record that year.
So as you mentioned, this cave was discovered in 2009.
Right.
However, this cave was created by nature, and they estimate that the cave is actually 2 to 5 million years old, created that long ago by the river water eroding away the limestone underneath the mountain, and where the limestone was weak, the ceiling collapsed and creating huge skylights as well. So this cave is actually that we can currently see. We can see the skylight, we can see the light entering into the cave. It's actually also translated directly from Vietnamese as mountain river cave.
Right. Well, so far it seems this miraculous cave here is a miracle of nature, and people have almost reserved all of the tickets this year. The tickets opened up for selling on August 15th so far this month, and already thousands of people have tried to seek the tickets. And so far this year, 442 people have visited so far, so perhaps that is almost the capacity. We'll have to see what happens next with this particular cave as more and more people flock to explore this important piece of nature. What will Vietnam do to protect and conserve it while at the same time promote tourism?
I'm pretty sure for those of you who might be interested in going to this cave, you might have to plan years ahead in order to be able to obtain these tickets and of course become fit enough to go there.
Right.
So that's definitely to take a look into if you're into adventures and want to visit something new.
Right, there you go.
โอเคในส่วนของ ASEAN Around Us ค่ะอย่างที่เราเห็นภาพกันตอนนี้นะคะก็เป็นถ้ำที่มีชื่อว่า Son Doong Cave นั่นเองค่ะซึ่งเป็นถ้ำที่เกิดจากกระแสน้ำที่ไหลกัดเซาะอยู่ในเบื้องล่างก็คือภายใต้ของภูเขานั่นเองนะคะซึ่งถ้ำนี้นะคะก็ได้กลายเป็นถ้ำที่ใหญ่ที่สุดในโลกตอนนี้นะคะก็ได้รับความนิยมจากนักท่องเที่ยวมากมายตอนนี้ราคาบัตรค่ะสำหรับคนที่จะไปท่องเที่ยวในปีหน้า 2017 อยู่ที่ราคา 3,000 เหรียญหรือว่าประมาณ 100,000 บาทนั่นเองก็ถือว่าเป็นทริปที่นอกเหนือจากจะได้เห็นความสวยงามนะคะก็จะได้เหมือนกับว่าไปแอดเวนเจอร์ไปทัวร์เพราะจะต้องปีนเขาจะต้องข้ามน้ำข้ามอะไรหลายๆอย่างเลยทีเดียวเพื่อที่จะได้ไปทัวร์แล้วก็อยู่ในถ้ำ5 วันด้วยกัน
โอ้สุดยอดนะคะจริงๆแล้วadventure แบบนี้อาจจะไม่เหมาะสำหรับทุกคนเพราะว่าไม่ใช่แค่ราคาสูงนะคะแต่ว่าในเวลาเดียวกันต้องฟิตด้วยอย่างที่คุณลิซ่าเพิ่งบอกพร้อมกับการจำกัดนักท่องเที่ยวด้วยนะคะเพราะปีหนึ่งเขารับแค่ประมาณ500 คนเท่านั้นเองเพราะฉะนั้นเป็นถ้ำที่สุดยอดจริงๆนะคะจริงๆแล้วถ้ำนี้มีอายุเป็น 2-5 ล้านปีนะคะแต่เพิ่งค้นพบโดยนักท่องเที่ยวชาวอังกฤษนะคะเมื่อปี 2009 ทีนี้เขาก็เริ่มหลังจากการค้นพบนะคะเขาก็ดัดแปลงแล้วก็ปรับปรุงให้รับนักท่องเที่ยวปี 2013 จากนั้นมาก็คือเปิดให้รับนักท่องเที่ยว3 ปีที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยค่ะ
ค่ะก็ถือว่ามีนักท่องเที่ยวที่ถือว่าเป็นผู้นำของหลายๆประเทศได้ไปเยี่ยมชมมาเรียบร้อยแล้วในส่วนของ 2017 เนี่ยถึงแม้ว่าเขาสามารถที่จะรับเพียง 500-600 คนได้ก็มีกระแสว่าเป็นพันๆคนเลยที่สนใจที่จะซื้อตั๋วซื้อบัตรเข้าชมนั่นเอง
ใช่ค่ะทีนี้ใครสนใจศึกษาเพิ่มเติมนะคะก็คือเข้าไปที่เว็บไซต์ของผู้จัดนะคะที่เป็นมีชื่อว่า Adventure Tours หรือว่า Oxalis OXALIS ทัวร์ของประเทศเวียดนามนั่นเองที่จังหวัดกวางบิน
โอเคก็ถือว่าเป็นอีกหนึ่งแหล่งท่องเที่ยวในแถบอาเซียนสำหรับใครที่สนใจที่จะเข้าไปดูค่ะ
And that was a little bit of food for thought in your next adventure around Vietnam. With that, let's take a short break. When we come back, more coming up in ASEAN Hot Issues. Stay
พักกัน
tuned.
สักครู่ค่ะ
Welcome back to the program Into ASEAN Around Us and ASEAN Hot Issue here. Lots of updates happening around your ASEAN community, starting off with updates from the Philippines.
ใช่ค่ะกลับเข้าสู่รายการ ASEAN Challenge นะคะและซึ่งในช่วงนี้ค่ะเราจะมาติดตามข่าวสารในอาเซียนกันค่ะเริ่มกันที่ประเทศฟิลิปปินส์นั่นเองค่ะ
In the Philippines, the new leader of the Philippines for the past 3 months now has really created a lot of heat in his war against drug trafficking here. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has now flashed back, you could say, and clashed with comments coming from the UN. He threatened now to leave the UN after the UN recently released a report urging the president to stop his extrajudicial killings. This is part of his policy, and he says he will not stop this procedure.
Now, as for most of you who, or some of you who have been following up on the news updates, of course, we know that his measures might seem to be a little extreme in the way they try to, of course, manage or take care of the drug trafficking problem within the country. Of course, the UN and several countries have disagreed with it. Nevertheless, of course, Duterte comes in and speaks saying that if other countries or the UN doesn't understand the actual situation going on in the country, then of course they would like the UN to kind of step back from it as well.
In fact, he came out to say against the UN report, he said that the more the UN pushes the Philippine leader to stop his policies, he says he eventually might leave the organization and actually invite China and others to form a new one. He said he criticized the UN for not doing enough to address hunger, issues of terrorism, and for not doing anything about Syria and Iraq. And he also said that these powers allowed bigger bombs and powers to bomb villages and kill innocent civilians. Thus, he will invite China and African nations to form another global organization. And this was his retort and response to the UN plea to stop extrajudicial killings.
However, since he gained power from the election on May 9th, up until now, about 900 suspected drug traffickers have been killed after the election. So, of course, this has brought up main concerns to the UN, of course, and is part of the reason why there are these disputes, or what we can say, disagreements in the methods, and of course has led to Duterte warning that they may leave the UN.
Right. Altogether, though, 900 suspected, as you said, drug traffickers have been killed, averaging roughly 35 people per day since Duterte took office, and this rate has been quite alarming. But at the same time, Duterte responded by saying that it's not the work of police. These deaths, he said, were not the work of police. He even invited the UN officials and experts to investigate for themselves that extrajudicial killings have not been done by his officials and his authorities.
Now, just for those of you who have been following up on the news, of course, you might recognize the way of his speeches tend to be quite harsh sometimes.
Right.
So that's another thing that you can take a look into.
He's a bit explicit in his words, choice of words.
Yes, so you can take a look into that for, of course, news updates and a little bit of I think he's a bit of a character.
Personality, definitely. So that's definitely what, is driving him to fight for the Philippines and is also alarming people around him, kind of leaving a trail of destruction along the way. But altogether, he questioned the United Nations and what they've done for the world themselves, and he asked the United Nations to fulfill its own mandate instead of worrying about the Philippines right now.
All right, so these are just some of the issues that are surrounding what people think, both the UN and within the Philippines themselves, of course. มาดูกันในส่วนข่าวแรกของ ASEAN Hot Issue มากันที่ฟิลิปปินส์ค่ะอย่างที่เราทราบกันว่าประธานาธิบดีโรดริโก ดูเตเต้นะคะก็มีนโยบายในการที่จะกำจัดในเรื่องของยาเสพติดคราวนี้ทาง UN หรือว่าสหประชาชาติเนี่ยค่ะก็มีการ ถือว่าไม่เห็นด้วยกับวิธีการของประธานาธิบดีเนี่ยค่ะก็เลยมีการเรียกว่าไม่เข้าใจกันนิดนึงนะคะดูเตเต้ก็มีการขู่ว่าถ้าหาก UN ไม่หยุดก็จะออกจาก UN เลยทีเดียว
ไม่ใช่แค่ออกอย่างเดียวนะคะจะจับมือกับประเทศจีนพร้อมกับประเทศแอฟริกาแล้วประเทศอื่นๆเพื่อที่จะสร้างองค์กรใหม่เลยนะคะที่อาจจะมาเป็นคู่แข่งกับทาง UN ด้วยสุดยอดนะคะก็นับว่าเป็นการถกกันแบบ
ก็ถือว่าไม่ธรรมดาเลยทีเดียวเพราะว่าทำได้ขนาดนี้แต่ว่าก็คือมีกระแสข่าวมากมายเกี่ยวกับการนโยบายของเขาในการที่เขาจะกำจัดเรื่องยาเสพติดเนี่ยบางคนก็เห็นด้วยบางคนก็ไม่เห็นด้วยก็อาจจะเป็นเรื่องปกติแต่ว่าอย่างไรก็ตามเราก็จะต้องติดตามดูกันนะคะว่าจะเป็นยังไงกันต่อไป
ใช่ค่ะก็เรื่อง drug trafficking ในประเทศฟิลิปปินส์ก็ค่อนข้างเข้มข้นทีเดียวนะคะเราก็จะคอยอัปเดตข่าวเรื่อยๆนะคะทีนี้ in other news the Philippines.Still, while Duterte, he said that the police are not the officials who have done those extrajudicial killings. But at the same time, police have been accused of doing other misdeeds. So far in the news updates, actually 300 Philippine officers have been accused of selling drugs that had been seized from these drug traffickers.
That's right. This statement was actually said by the National Police Chief Ronald De La Rosa, in which at the Senate hearing on Tuesday has said that about 300 officers, which were on watch list of the suspicion of selling drugs, seized in the anti-smuggling operations.
Right. Now, these police officers are going to be investigated and prosecuted if they are indeed guilty of involvement. So they'll be removed from their offices and removed from their positions and also charged accordingly. And what's interesting is the Senate inquiry of these particular offices is being conducted by a staunch critic of President Rodrigo Duterte, who launched this crackdown on illegal drugs. So we have different forces at play here in the Philippines. But Rosa, her name is Senator Leila de Lima, and her team had told the panel that almost 2,000 people have been killed during the crackdown so far. 40 deaths were due to robbery. But altogether, a lot of the police involved in these operations have also been accused of protecting these particular syndicates involved in the production and distribution of the narcotics.
Well, according to Rosa, about 750 of the dead were killed in police operations against drug dealers. And the others were under investigation at the moment now. So they have to figure out what the rest of the killings, almost 2,000 as you mentioned, 750 have said that were during the police operations, and so therefore we have to figure out what the rest, almost 1,300, are about. He said almost 700,000 drug users and drug dealers have turned themselves in order to escape this crackdown, though.
That's amazing, just to show you how you could say serious he is about the crackdown. Duterte is really cracking down on drug trafficking with an iron fist, resulting in nearly 1 million people turning themselves in rather than receive punishment.
Now, however, the scary part about this is that on average 35 people have been killed each day since Duterte took office on June 30th, 2016 and started this crackdown on drug trade.
Right, his crackdown involves two choices: risk death or turn yourselves in. So apparently more people are preferring to turn themselves in than to risk death here. But at the same time, the Human Rights Watch, as a result of this, is alarmingly calling on the United States and the European Union to actually put pressure on Duterte to really curb that violence. They say it's unacceptable and it'll cause potentially severe diplomatic and economic costs.
But however, Duterte has also responded, saying that he does not care about human rights, threatening to declare martial law and even leave the UN, as we mentioned in the previous news as well, if the world body interferes with his crackdown methods.
Right, there you go. And we'll keep you posted on more developments coming from the Philippines.
ในส่วนข่าวที่2ค่ะเราก็ยังอยู่ที่ประเทศฟิลิปปินส์กันค่ะก็ในส่วนของการค้ายาเสพติดในประเทศค่ะที่มีการกำจัดการค้ายาเสพติดค่ะในโรนัลด์เดลาโรซาผู้บัญชาการตำรวจแห่งชาติของฟิลิปปินส์ค่ะได้กล่าวระหว่างการไต่สวนของวุฒิสภาว่ามีนายตำรวจประมาณ300นายที่อยู่ในบัญชีรายชื่อผู้ถูกจับตามองนะคะในฐานะต้องสงสัยว่าพัวพันกับการค้ายาเสพติดโดยที่จะมีการปลดเจ้าหน้าที่เหล่านี้ถ้าหาก พบว่ามีความผิดจริงนอกจากนี้นะคะในนายโรซาก็ได้กล่าวเสริมว่ายังไม่มีการประกาศนโยบายสังหารผู้เสพยาเสพติดกับผู้ค้ายาเสพติดพร้อมระบุว่าประชาชนประมาณ 1,900 คนที่ถูกสังหารระหว่างการปราบปรามการค้ายาเสพติดผิดกฎหมายที่เริ่มเมื่อประมาณ7 สัปดาห์ก่อนนับตั้งแต่ที่ประธานาธิบดีโรดริโก ดูเตเต้ได้ขึ้นรับตำแหน่งนะคะก็มีอยู่ประมาณ40 คนที่ไม่เกี่ยวข้องกับยาเสพติด
Right. So keep you posted on those developments as the Philippine leader continues to crack down on drug traffickers and police with an iron fist. Meanwhile, turning over to updates coming from Singapore. The Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has taken ill now while delivering a speech. And his condition, though, is not thought to be serious, but still, he caused quite a fright for listeners at his address.
That's right. His official Twitter account has said that he felt unsteady because of the prolonged standing and heat and dehydration from the event, of course, causing his illness or sickness on stage, which, of course, as mentioned, is not that serious, luckily.
Right.
So his heart was fine and did not have a stroke, he said.
Altogether, though, he took a break for about an hour after staggering on National Day address when he was delivering his National Day rally speech, you could say. And so he went backstage, took an hour break, and came back. So luckily, it was not anything serious, but still caused quite a scare.
That's exactly correct ก็ในส่วนของข่าวที่3ค่ะเราย้ายมาที่ประเทศสิงคโปร์กันบ้างซึ่งในส่วนของนายกรัฐมนตรีค่ะลีเสียนลุงของสิงคโปร์ก็ได้ประกาศต่างๆมีการพูดบนเวทีคราวนี้ระหว่างการพูดบนเวทีเนี่ยค่ะก็ได้เกิดอาการเหมือนหน้ามืดนิดนึงนะคะขาดน้ำก็ต้องลงจากเวทีเพื่อพักประมาณชั่วโมงนึงก่อนที่จะกลับขึ้นเวทีอีกรอบนึงก็ถือว่าไม่ได้เป็นอาการอะไรที่ร้ายแรงก็โชคดีไป
Well, when he came back though, he made a very, you could say, humorous comment about his condition. Lee Hsien Loong is 64. He was talking about the idea that a person from any race can become a president in Singapore. And that was when he took ill. He started feeling a little staggering and everything. And when he came back after a short break, he spoke about the need to actually prepare for his own successor. So in a way, a little black humor right there
ใช่ค่ะหลังจากที่ได้กลับมาบนเวทีนะก็มีการพูดถึงการเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรีว่าใครๆก็เป็นได้นะคะแล้วก็ได้พูดถึงการมอบอำนาจให้กับคนที่จะมาเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรีคนต่อไปด้วย
ต้องดูแลสุขภาพด้วยเองดีๆนะคะStill in Singapore, some more updates. This news here is not as humorous, you could say, as the former president of Singapore, SR Nathan, has died peacefully at the age of 92 here. And this report has come out from the Prime Minister's office of Singapore.
That's right. So Nathan, a 92-year-old former civil servant, was the 6th Prime Minister, or President, and the longest serving president in Singapore, and was in office for 2 terms altogether from 1999 to 2011. So he suffered from stroke in April of last year.
Right, and with that said, he maintained his condition, you could say, until now, and passed away peacefully just recently. And here, just comments coming from the Prime Minister's office. The late Mr. Nathan passed away peacefully at the Singapore General Hospital on Monday at 9:48 p.m. A very powerful key person here. Singapore's president has certain powers like the ability to veto the use of government reserves. So really he played a key role in boosting Singapore.
ค่ะเรายังอยู่ที่ประเทศสิงคโปร์กันต่อนะคะในส่วนของอดีตประธานาธิบดีของสิงคโปร์ค่ะถึงแก่อสัญญกรรมอย่างสงบหลังที่ป่วยเป็นโรคเส้นเลือดในสมองอุดตันรวมอายุ92 ปีเลยทีเดียวก็ถือว่าอายุยืนพอสมควรนะคะทั้งนี้นะคะนายนาธานเป็นประธานาธิบดีลำดับที่6แล้วก็ดำรงตำแหน่งเป็นประธานาธิบดีที่ยาวนานที่สุดของสิงคโปร์2 สมัยร่วมกันค่ะตั้งแต่ปี 2533 ถึง 2554
Right, and there you go. We'll keep you posted on updates coming from Singapore.
That's right.
Now we turn to some other news coming from Indonesia now, taking a look at the recent events in Indonesia this week that made headlines. Indonesia has now stepped up security on their holiday island of Bali after a recent capture of a suspect who has been planning to bomb the holiday island.
That's right. There have been several recent incidents in the past few years, of course, occurring especially in Bali, and so therefore since the recent occurrence, or not too recent actually, there was some attacks in 2002 starting from then with the nightclub, if those of you who remember that, killing several foreign tourists, mostly Australians of course. So since then the police force and also the country of Indonesia have of course stepped up on their security measures.
Right, altogether Indonesia is really trying to focus on particular areas like increasing security checkpoints in all of the entry areas, the border point areas, the small ports spread around Bali. They're really spreading out their forces to monitor the situation. Here, anti-terror police have said at the weekend that they were investigating whether the suspected militant arrested in Sumatra last week was actually plotting to attack Bali because they found explosive materials and a bomb in the suspect's home. But so far, details haven't come out yet as to the timeline or when or where in particular. But really this follows a string of attacks we've seen in Indonesia since 2002, like you mentioned.
That's right ในส่วนของข่าวที่ 5 ค่ะเรามาที่ประเทศอินโดนีเซียซึ่งก็ทางอินโดนีเซียนะคะก็เพิ่มการรักษาความปลอดภัยบนเกาะบาหลีนั่นเองซึ่งถือว่าเป็นเกาะที่นักท่องเที่ยวไปกันเยอะพอสมควรนะคะการรักษาความปลอดภัยก็ถือว่าเป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญมากๆก็ทางอินโดนีเซียก็ได้เพิ่มมาตรการการรักษาความปลอดภัยบนเกาะบาหลีหลังจากที่ได้จับกุมผู้ต้องสงสัยบนเกาะสุมาตราซึ่งตำรวจก็คาดว่าอาจจะมีการเกี่ยวข้องกับการก่อการร้ายหรือว่ามีการวางแผนโจมตีเกาะบาหลีนั่นเองค่ะก็ถือว่ามันก็มีหลายเหตุการณ์ที่เคยผ่านมาที่เกี่ยวข้องกับการโจมตีเกาะบาหลีอย่างเช่นในปี 2545 ค่ะก็มีการวางระเบิดที่ไนท์คลับในบาหลีซึ่งก็ได้ฆ่าชีวิตนักท่องเที่ยวประมาณหลายคนเลยทีเดียวนะคะรวมไปทั้งหมดมีผู้เสียชีวิต202คนหลังจากนั้นนะคะทางประเทศอินโดนีเซียโดยเฉพาะทางเกาะบาหลีก็ได้ปรับปรามด้านความมั่นคงให้มากขึ้นกว่าเดิม
ใช่ค่ะแล้วล่าสุดก็คือเดือนมกรานี่เองปีนี้นะคะก็มีการระเบิด IS นะคะจากผู้ก่อการร้าย IS ที่จาการ์ตานั่นเองนะคะแล้วก็คนเสียชีวิตไป4คนพร้อมกับคนเจ็บตัวไปอีกหลาย10คนทีเดียว So as a result of the resurgence of the Islamic State militantism and extremism in Indonesia, they have stepped up security all over. There you go.
All right, so those are the hot issues this week here on the ASEAN Hot Issue. We'll take a short break and we'll be back to see what some of the events are occurring in the ASEAN region during this week.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to ASEAN Challenge into ASEAN Calendar. Lots of colorful events coming up all around your ASEAN community.
ค่ะกับเข้าสู่รายการ ASEAN Challenge ค่ะซึ่งในช่วงนี้นะคะเราจะไปดูว่ามีอีเวนต์อะไรกำลังจะเกิดขึ้นในอาเซียนของเราค่ะ
Let's check it out.
The 21st of August 2016, Ninoy Aquino Day. Ninoy Aquino Day is a national holiday in the Philippines celebrated on August 21st every year. It commemorates the assassination of Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr., former senator who is regarded as the hero of democracy. Ninoy Aquino was one of the leaders of the opposition of the dictatorial government of President Ferdinand Marcos. He served as governor of Tarlac from 1961 to 1967 and as senator from 1967 to 1972. Aquino constantly criticized the Marcos regime, which eventually led to direct confrontation. In 1972, Marcos declared martial law and arrested Aquino on trumped-up charges. In 1977, he was sentenced to death, but was not immediately executed. After Aquino suffered a heart attack in prison, he was sent to the United States to undergo surgery. Aquino was assassinated on August 21, 1983, at Manila International Airport. Aquino had just returned to the Philippines after a 3-year exile and was shot in the head. His assassination strengthened the opposition movement and sparked the People Power Revolution, which culminated the overthrow of the Marcos regime. Ninoy Aquino Day was established by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in 2004. It is a national non-working holiday. Aquino Day is marked with a remembrance ceremony at the People Power Monument in Quezon City. of August 2016, National Heroes Day. National Heroes Day is a national holiday of the Philippines, celebrated to pay homage to the national heroes of the country. Every year, this day falls on the 4th Monday of August. Initially, National Heroes Day was celebrated on the 30th of November, as it was the birthday of Andreas Bonifacio, founder of the Katipunan. Later, this day moves to the 4th Monday of August to pay tribute to all other known or unknown men and women who sacrificed their lives for the Philippine freedom. The Philippines achieved its identity due to the noble deeds made by numbers of people, known as national heroes. People of the Philippines celebrate this day with a great enthusiasm. This is a perfect day to remember the life and work of all these great people. National Day in Malaysia. The National Day in Malaysia is celebrated every year on the 31st of August in honor of the birthday of the nation. On August 31st, 1957, Malaysia gained its independence from the British colonial rule and became an independent country. The National Day in Malaysia is celebrated in a grand style at Kuala Lumpur. This national festival is celebrated with great enthusiasm in all over the country. The Malaysian flag is hoisted throughout the country. On this day, many political leaders appear at the public events and talk about the nation's heritage, laws, history, people, about recent events, and future projects. The National Day is considered as a public holiday with outings, picnics, and lots of outdoor events like parades, air shows, fireworks, and musical concerts. Parades generally occur in the morning and the fireworks occur in the evening. The people of Malaysia proudly fly their flag, sing songs, and enjoy the day with their friends and families.
And those were the special events around your ASEAN calendar this month. And we take a short break now. Coming up next, we have ASEAN Interview.
พักกันสักครู่ค่ะ Welcome back to the ASEAN Challenge, and up next we'll be taking a look at a hot topic dealing with the relations between China and Myanmar in the ASEAN Interview.
Let's go listen.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang met with Myanmar's first state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi in Beijing, vowing to further strengthen bilateral ties. Ahead of the meeting, Suu Kyi was officially received by Premier Li at a welcoming ceremony. During the meeting, Premier Lee said China and Myanmar have always respected each other and treated each other as equals. China supports Myanmar in choosing its own path of development and its efforts in promoting national reconciliation, boosting economic growth, and improving people's livelihood. China is willing to consolidate political mutual trust with Myanmar, strengthen exchanges and cooperation on multiple levels in various fields, and make greater progress in promoting China-Myanmar relationship, said Lee. Lee said China hopes the two sides could press ahead with major cooperation projects, including an oil and gas pipeline and the Milestone Dam. Suu Kyi said Myanmar's new government attaches great importance to its relationship with China, and it is committed to furthering China-Myanmar's relationship. She said Myanmar is willing to work with China to promote practical cooperation in energy and other fields, expand exchanges and cooperation in fields including border trade, agriculture, healthcare, and education, and maintain border stability. After the meeting, the two leaders witnessed the signing of several agreements, including one involving a bridge project in Myanmar. Suu Kyi is on a 5-day official visit to China. It is her first major foreign trip since the Southeast Asian nation's new government took office on April 1st. Myanmar's leader Aung San Suu Kyi told China's Premier Li Keqiang in Beijing on Thursday, August 18th, that her new government is willing to look for a resolution that suits both countries to a suspended Chinese-funded hydropower project in northern Myanmar, a senior Chinese diplomat said. Finding a solution to the $3.6 billion Milestone Dam project is important for Suu Kyi, who needs China's cooperation in talks with Myanmar's ethnic minority armed groups operating along northern borders with China. Suu Kyi, who is barred from the presidency by a junta-drafted constitution but holds several government posts, including that of foreign minister, also signed deals after talks with China to build a strategic bridge in Khun Long, 32 kilometers or 20 miles from the border of northeastern Myanmar, and 2 hospitals in the Southeast Asian country's largest city, Yangon and Mandalay.
李克强总理也向昂山书记国务资政表达了中方希望缅甸新一届政府妥善处理寻求解决密松电站的问题。昂山书记阁下表示，缅甸政府已经决定设立一个调查委员会，通过这个调查委员会寻求一个对密松水电站问题的一个妥善解决办法。
He added that Suu Kyi had expressed her willingness to find a resolution that would suit the interest of both sides. The Beijing visit is her first major diplomatic foray after a new government took power in April, following her National League for Democracy's sweeping election victory in November. Former Myanmar President Thein Sein angered China in 2011 when he suspended work on the hydropower dam in the Irrawaddy River Basin, after it drew widespread environmental protest. China has been pushing for work to restart on the dam, which under the original plans would have sent 90% of its power to China. A Myanmar government commission reviewing the project, as well as other proposed hydropower dams, including several on the Than Luin River, is expected to report by November 11th.
Thanks very much for those insightful details, and that wraps up ASEAN Challenge this week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again very soon next week. For now, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ